we never addressed the couples counseling session.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
I've been waiting.
Saturday at, was it 9:30? It was
Yes, it
early.
was.
It was really early. Now, I had been to couples counseling before with previous relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I, like Megan, waited too long, I think, in the past, before going into couples counseling. So there was already issues. There was already anger. There was already resentment.
Right.
Now, this was a very different experience. Now, I had gone with different expectations. I expected Scott to play the blame game.
Right.
I immediately, I had walked in defensive.
So you went in, yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
I had walked in defensive.
And wait, who picked this therapist?
Scott, I think he went through Liat.
Okay.
Someone.
Okay.
But he knew that I was seeing Judy Rosenberg regarding Monroe. So I was not talking to Judy about my own personal situation. I went there specifically to talk about Monroe.
Okay.
So, but Liat and Trevor had seen Judy Rosenberg, and I imagine he went through Liat. Anyway, so he scheduled the appointment. He paid for the appointment, which was not cheap, which I appreciate. He walked in. Sorry, I took a sip.
That was a weird time for you to take a sip.
I know.
of water.
My mouth is dry. My mouth is dry. He said, so he spoke first.
Okay.
And he said, I just want to let you know this is not a bitch fest. And he said, I'm not here to prove that I'm right and you're wrong. So all of a sudden I'm like, whew. You know, I take a breath because I'm ready to fight, right? I went in with
went in there hot.
I went in there with gloves on.
With the receipts, yeah.
And I was ready. And then he proceeded to talk about, he wasn't like crying, but he was emotional. Like you could tell this was like thoughtful. Like it was really thoughtful. So he had said some very nice things about me, very nice things about the relationship, and then why he wanted this session. And honestly, like it was so touching and sweet. At that point, I was no longer on the offensive.
Right.
I was no longer even on the defensive. I just was like,
receiving.
Whatever you want. Like,
You're
whatever
there.
you
You
want.
were
Like,
there.
all of a sudden, I just like, okay, what do you need?
Right.
Because he was so nice, and it was very sweet. So it was nothing like I had expected. And we walked out of there, I think, I can't really speak for him. I felt closer. I felt more committed.
Aww.
I felt more understood. I felt like I understood him. And all this was like in an hour. It was just in an hour. And I think that Judy is just kind of helping us kind of bridge the gap between the communication breakdown. And I actually felt it was a very positive thing. And as you know, I walked in with like all sorts of red flags.
Sure.
When
From previous experiences.
And also when he asked for couples counseling for Christmas,
Right.
that to me was a red flag.
Exactly.
And I felt like, oh, here we go. Someone else is going to try to change me and
then
mold
all of
me.
your other couples counseling experiences until this one have been a sort of negative where you had to feel defensive or whatever. So that felt like why this was different.
I felt like all the other sessions, it was just too late.
Yeah.
It was too late. There was too much damage and so much anger and resentments so you said you had gotten a little bit of an argument with Ben.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised at how quickly you will come together, especially with the right therapist.
Yeah, I think we should do that.
And Dr. Donna she's helped me a lot in individual therapy, but I think Judy is really, really, I think she's very effective in
With the
couples
couples.
counseling. And it was
That's good to know. It sounds like it
Did you
was
sit
a
next to
wonderful
each
outcome.
other? Did you sit in two separate chairs?
You know, it's so funny because we were sitting on the same sofa and there was quite a distance between us. But I found us just like subconsciously in the hour moving closer together.
Did you cross your legs toward each other?
I don't think we crossed
That's
our
like, a body
legs.
language thing.
I don't think crossed our legs, but
you
pretty much the
physically got
legs were
closer.
touching by the end of the yes.
So that is also a
good
super
sign.
important factor is what happened physically. All right, that's great. This is great.
Good news.
So
Is it a one-time thing or do you go back?
no, I think we would go back.
But maybe not in like 2 weeks.
And
But
maybe
maybe you
you
go back
take-
every month or so.
Well, I don't know because we're still working on because we were talking about Jeffrey has been he's been hanging out a lot lately, and the triggers. So it's like we understand Jeffrey's here, but why is he here, and what triggers him?
Right.
And it's interesting what she goes through and she says, okay, let's talk about your childhood. And she said, and she asked us both, was there any physical abuse? No. Is there any sexual abuse? No. Is there any abandonment issues? And that was very strong for me.
Yes.
Very strong for me, not for him. And then she said, is there any emotional abuse? And then for me, I can, answer for myself. I never felt like there's any emotional abuse in my family, but more about emotional neglect.
Right.
And if I look back at like the critical years of my childhood, I believe that my parents were dealing with their own shit and they couldn't tend to us as kids. And to be honest with you, I felt that way with Gage and I and the first year of Monroe's life. And fortunately, we had a great support system and a lot of loving people around Monroe. So, but I will say I was not there for Monroe the way I should have been because I was dealing with my own personal issues.
Right.
And now, like, I'm working very hard to overcome that, but I'm still dealing with my shit. And if it weren't for my support system, I don't think Monroe would be getting exactly what she needs from me entirely. I'll be honest.
Right.